Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc, and today we're going to look ahead to the two Intercontinental Playoffs to decide the final two spots at the 2022 FIFA World Cup, and I'm going to give you my predictions. If that sounds interesting, then let's hop right into it. So there's only two spots left of the 32 teams heading to the FIFA World Cup in Qatar in just a few months. And we have two intercontinental playoffs between four different teams from four different confederations, and we're going to see who's going to go out and get those last two remaining spots. As I said before, I'm going to go ahead, give a brief preview of each match, look at their recent results, their squad, history at the World Cup, things like that, and then I'm going to give you my match prediction for each one, and then hopefully I'll come out on top and I'll be correct. So without further ado, let's look ahead to the first game. We have Australia versus Peru. Now, it seems like these two teams in recent years are always in the Intercontinental Playoffs. In fact, actually all four of these teams have been in Intercontinental Playoffs as of late. But Australia in particular, they've been in many Intercontinental Playoffs because they used to actually be in the Oceania Confederation until they felt that they were too strong for the region and they wanted to be challenged more, so they moved to Asia. And there's been a few times where they've qualified directly through Asia, but there's been other few times where they've had to go through these playoff systems, just like last year or last edition in 2018, for example, where they defeated Honduras. Now, in this match, I think it's going to be a little more tough for them for many reasons. Obviously, Peru is a much better opponent than Honduras was, especially in 2018. However, Australia, who is, a very solid team, they're always a very solid team, always, been one of the best teams in Asia. Right now, I think they're not as strong as they have been historically. For example, if you look at their recent results, they haven't been at their peak. They've defeated some very weak opponents. For example, throughout this year, they've defeated Vietnam, they defeated Jordan, but they've also lost to some of the stronger teams in Asia. For example, they lost to Japan. They got thoroughly outplayed by Japan, and they also lost to Saudi Arabia in a match that basically confirmed Saudi Arabia's automatic qualification to the World Cup. They've also had a few draws here and there, but they got the win when they needed it the most against UAE in the playoff round to qualify for this match, and I thought they were the better team. I thought they deserved the win, but even still, there was a few moments here and there where UAE had some opportunities to score. They did actually equalize. Now, of course, it didn't matter in the end as Australia was able to grab a late winner. But still, there was moments here and there where it looked like UAE was able to get in behind, was able to, take apart Australia's defense. And like I said before, Australia was by far the better team, but it wasn't 100% dominant performance. There were a few shaky moments there. Now, also, if you just look at their squad, of course, you have some great players like Matthew Ryan, who's been playing in La Liga for a long time. You also have Hrustic, who plays for Eintracht Frankfurt. I think he's actually a very good player for this Australian team. And of course, Aaron Moy, who's been there for a while. A very popular player. It's unfortunate that he went to China and didn't stay in the Premier League, but still. And then they have some guys that are, stars in the A-League, like Matthew Leckie, for example. But even still, you just look at this team overall, and yes, it is a very competent, solid squad, but it's not the best. They've had more stronger teams in the past. They've had, remember the days of Tim Cahill, who was a very, very reliable striker up top. He's gone. Obviously, he's been gone for a long time, and they don't really have players like that in the squad anymore. Now, you compare that to Peru, and Peru is one of my favorite teams to watch. This team is just so fun to watch. They play with so much determination, so much grit, and they're usually not filled with a whole bunch of stars. It's usually kind of just the same cast of guys that have been together for the past, 10, 12 years, and they work really good together. And in fact, they play so much better for the country than they do for their club often. But I've seen this team so many times throughout the Copa Americas, 2015, 16, 2019, 2021 Copa Americas, 2018 World Cup. They're always there. They have, Gareca is a wonderful manager, one of the best managers in South America, if not the best manager in South America, in my opinion. This team is the ultimate tournament team. They may not play the best football at times. Sometimes they might even play bad, but they find a way to win. They find a way to snatch a victory just at the death. Like I said before, they don't have the most talented squad, but they work really good together. The team collective is very, very important, and they've proved me wrong in the past. For example, I thought they were going to do terrible at the 2021 Copa America. They had so many guys missing through injury. They had so many new players coming in. I thought that was it. I thought it was done. And then they ended up almost winning third place. They ended up with fourth, but still they were very close to getting third place. So they've proved me wrong in the past before. Now, if you look at their recent results in, CONMEBOL qualification, they've had some pretty good results here. They defeated Colombia. Granted, it was one of those games where Colombia really should have won. Peru was completely outplayed, but they grabbed the winner there. They tied a very, very electric Ecuadorian side. They narrowly lost to Uruguay. Probably should have been a draw because there was a goal that was wrongly ruled out for being offside, I believe. But, if you go back and look, it was, very clearly a wrong decision. And then, they defeated Paraguay as well. They've had some just very good results here that, put them in contention for this spot at the World Cup. And remember, this team was at one point bottom. They were 10th place in CONMEBOL qualifying table, and they shot all the way up into third. They fell down a little bit, but still they were able to nail this spot on for the playoff over stronger teams like Chile and Colombia, for example, especially Colombia. Chile is on the downward spiral, but Colombia, I'm again super surprised they didn't qualify for the World Cup, let alone make the playoff spot. Now, in their most recent match, Peru defeated New Zealand in a rematch of their 2018 World Cup Intercontinental Playoff, meaning that they've only lost one game throughout the entirety of 2022. Like I said before, you look at this squad, most of these guys have been playing with each other since, at least the 2011 Copa America. A lot of them haven't been around for that long, but they have been around for a while. You still have Gaice in goal. You still have Advincula, Christian Ramos, Zambrano. There's so many guys that have been here for a while in defense. And then, of course, in the midfield, you have Yoshi Yotun, Tapia, Cueva, and they are missing a few guys. No more Jefferson Farfan, no more Paulo Guerrero, the hero of Peru. He's gone. He's very old. Farfan's also very old. But they do have up top Gianluca Lapadula, the Italian-Peruvian striker, who is one of my favorite players to watch. Super reliable, really proved me wrong. I didn't think he was going to be able to cut it for this team. He definitely has. He was very good at the Copa America. He's been very good in World Cup qualification. And I think players like that is what's going to prove the difference in this match between Australia. When you look at these two teams head to head, I just think Peru is just overall a much stronger team. They face stronger opposition day in and day out. They're much more consistent. They have a stronger defense, much more reliable offense as well. And that's not to say that this Australian team is bad. I don't think they're bad by any means. They just don't have it. I don't think that they have the rigor, the determination that past iterations of the Australian squad has had. And I think that's going to be evident here when Australia don't qualify for the World Cup, unfortunately for them. I think Peru is going to have this in the bag. And if you look at the record at the last few matches, they don't concede many goals and they don't score a whole lot, but they're very clinical. And I think it is going to be 2-0 overall. I think it's going to be 2-0. I think that, probably we're going to see a goal from Lapadula and then maybe a second goal off a set piece or something like that. But unfortunately for Australia, I don't think this is going to be their night, and I think Peru is just too strong. They're just too experienced as well. They have so much tournament experience. It's too much for Australia to overcome. Now, anyway, let's go on to the next match between Costa Rica and New Zealand. So you can make a very good argument that Costa Rica is the third best team historically in North America, behind the US and Mexico. Now, right now, obviously, Canada is in contention. If anything, Canada is the best team in North America right now. But beyond the big three countries in North America, Costa Rica is a very, very powerful team, historically a very powerful team. They've been to many World Cups before. In fact, they made it to 2018, 2014, maybe 2010, I'm not sure. They were definitely at 2006 and 2002. So, that's at least four possibly 5 of the last World Cups. They were all at, consecutive appearances as well. That being said, this is a very different team. This isn't the team that made it to the quarterfinals of the 2014 World Cup, that historic Costa Rican performance. They still have some of those guys, though, however. The experience is still there, but there is a new breath of fresh air. There's some young players coming in. As for the recent results in 2022 so far, it's actually been very good. In World Cup qualifying, they've had essentially a perfect record. They've had some incredibly important wins. For example, they beat Panama. They surprisingly beat Canada as well. They were able to draw with Mexico in a game that I personally think they probably should have won. And they even defeated the U.S. Now, granted, this match, the U.S. didn't need to win. All they had to do was avoid a 6-0 loss. But this match was particularly interesting because Costa Rica heavily rotated their squad and played a whole bunch of guys that have never played before for the national team. So going forward, I think that shows that this Costa Rican team can be, back to where they were, say, a few years ago when they were undoubtedly the 3rd, maybe even 2nd best team in North America. Just as I said, if you look at this squad, they have some usual suspects. Obviously, Kendall Watson is still there, Celso Borges, Brian Oviedo, Brian Ruiz, Venegas, Campbell. But then there's some new guys as well. So I think it is a good balance. We're not talking best team in the world or anything like that, but this is still a very competent, very robust, and very experienced, but at the same time has some exciting youth talent added in as well. Now, if you look at New Zealand, this team is always hard to judge because they play in Oceania and they are by far the best team in Oceania, like no doubt there. It's almost always a guarantee that they're going to be the ones going to the Intercontinental Playoffs, or in the old days, they're the ones going to the Confederations Cup. That being said, yes, the opposition is not the strongest, but don't count out New Zealand. They have some very competent players. They are a very good team. They do have a lot of guys playing in Europe. Yes, not in, say, Europe's top 5 leagues, but there's some guys getting good experience game in and game out for this New Zealand squad. And of course, who can forget their historic showing at the 2010 World Cup, where they were the only team to be undefeated throughout the entire tournament. They were even able to nick a draw against Italy, who were the defending champions at the time. As for their recent results, like I said before, it is really hard to judge because they've had some massive wins, like their 7-1 win over New Caledonia, their 4-0 win over Fiji, or their 5-0 destruction of the Solomon Islands, which qualified them to this playoff round. But again, look at these teams. These teams are small Pacific islands. You can't really expect much of them. When they went up against some stronger teams, relatively stronger teams, they got defeated by Jordan, and they were also held to a 0-0 draw against Oman. And then, as I said before, they were defeated 1-0 by Peru. Now, granted, these were all friendlies, so there's a grain of salt, and it's really hard to judge just how good this team is. You take a look at this squad, there's some guys that do play in Europe, there's some guys that play in some relatively weaker leagues like the A-League or the MLS, but still, this team has been playing together for a while. A lot of these guys have a lot of experience, and there are some standout players. For example, Chris Wood, who plays for Newcastle, who is a very, very robust striker who has consistently been New Zealand's best player over the past few years. Now, when you look at these two teams head to head, I think, as good as New Zealand is in their own confederation, I don't really think that can relate to when they play teams from all around the world. Even though this Costa Rican team is not as good as they once were in, say, 2014 or 2015, I still think that they have more than enough to defeat this New Zealand side. I actually think this Costa Rican team, it can be somewhat of a surprise going into the World Cup. If they do make it to the World Cup, they will be drawn into a very tough group. But as I just said, it looks like they do have a good blend of young, upcoming players as well as experienced guys. So for this match in particular, I think it's going to be 3-1 to Costa Rica. I think that it's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout or anything like that. I think Costa Rica probably is going to grab a goal off a set piece or something early on. Maybe New Zealand will equalize, probably breakaway, goal from Chris Wood, counterattack, something like that. But then later on, Costa Rica is going to score one, and then from there on, the floodgates are going to open, and they'll score another, maybe another one after that. So I'm going to say 3 or 4-1 Costa Rica. New Zealand is not going to get embarrassed or exposed or anything like that. But it's just a simple fact that Costa Rica is a better team than New Zealand. So anyway, guys, that has been my predictions for the 2 Intercontinental Playoffs for the 2022 World Cup. Let me know what you think is going to happen. Do you think I am overrating both Peru and Costa Rica? And do you think I'm underrating New Zealand or Australia? Because, like I said, none of these teams are bad teams, and it is a one-off match in each of these cases in a neutral ground in Qatar. It's not like, you know, you have the one leg away and the one leg home as previous years past. I mean, remember that, you know, Peru versus New Zealand game 4 years ago. That was utterly insane. We're not going to see anything like that this time around. So anything could happen. It's just a one-off game. There's a good chance Keylor Navas may not play for Costa Rica. So if the stand-in goalkeeper makes a mistake, fumbles the ball or something like that, that could be the difference between Costa Rica and New Zealand going to the World Cup. Something similar could happen like that for Peru. Who knows? Like I said, guys, my name is Brandon. This has been the Football Bloc. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a nice rest of your night.